Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I want to go very slowly over some of the finer points of what we've been discussing as a way to kind of like help clarify some of the finer points of the transition into the new earth. Due to the incredible amount of planetary and global crises that we're going through, and each one of us are affected in some different ways. Some people, it's their finances, other people, it's their health, other people, it's energetic, other people, it's loss and grief, either because they lost somebody physically or they're grieving loss of mobility, ability to travel, etc. Or it's just the chaos that's going around the planet, i.e. the war, the climate change, political unrest, and simply lawlessness. I live in New York City. It's a big city, and I'm looking at the news across America. There was a shooting. I don't remember where, but there was a mass shooting that was recently, that just happened today. Again, they happen so often, I don't pay attention. You have to block the stuff out, right? I think 9 people may have been wounded or dead. I'm not sure exactly how many people are victimized by this. But this kind of random lawlessness that's happening around, making all of us feel unsafe, afraid, and in need of reinsurance over, hold on one second. I'm getting a message from Audrey. I think she can't get in. Hold on. All right, she can get in. Give me 1 second, then I send this link out. So it's this concept to try to this idea that and we don't know, and how is all of these things affecting you? There is right now, due to the war, there is a potential for a nuclear escalation, and it's not just nuclear escalation. What I had picked up that I didn't want to share, I got permission to share with you now. It's the potential for the release of a bioweapon. And that also exists in the horizon. I'm praying that it is not so, the same way I'm praying for no nuclear disaster to happen, but it's that kind of like worry and that kind of concern that begins to make us begin to behave in a different manner. Whereas before I had a carefree attitude where I would make plans with friends, I would be out on the street, I would be constantly, every day there was something for me to do. I was going to go out and rollerblade, go to the museum, do this, do all of these things. I don't do any of this anymore. Again, the lawlessness, the crazy random act of violence, people are being attacked, stabbed in the subway, things that have not happened in the city in years, because crime really went down tremendously. And it's not just the city, but it's everywhere that this is happening. And people are unhinged. They have lost so much that they are acting out of rage and depression, and they're blaming people for unduly for their loss. and they are attacking. And that kind of environment, I don't want to expose myself to it. I rarely go out past sundown, except if I'm going out for dinner. I have friends that are coming in town. I would go out by 8 o'clock, by 10:30, I'm back. I used to hang until, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning and come back and crash. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. And so I have noticed it's either I'm getting old, and I don't think that's what it is, although I am, but it's the fact that my action have been curtailed by an environment in which I sense insecurities. And thus I am trying to nest and trying to protect myself by remaining in my space. And this I did for the major part of 2020 when the COVID was raging. COVID was raging in New York City. We lost a lot of people, and I spent a lot of time just in my 600 square foot apartment and eating a lot of ice cream. I gained a lot of weight, although I'm lactose intolerant, but that was the sugar was the only thing that was giving me some sense of like some escape. And I want to talk about the escape today, because that's the point that I'm leading you into. You may think that you're handling it well. You may think that you're okay. But the kind of behavior that I know that I've been, the kind of life I've been living since the beginning of 2020 is not normal. There's nothing about it that's normal. Okay? And more to the point, because I know all of this imminent doom as a seer, I am trying to keep my energy system around trying to listen so that I will know if I have to move, if I have to quickly with agility escape, find a way to get out of the way, or if I have to stand still. So this is where I am, and that kind of condition creates an experience in which I am not living in the present and the now. I spoke about this in the morning class, and I will go a little bit more in depth here, meaning that I am not in the present. Every spiritual teacher will tell you that being in the present is the best thing that you can do. You cannot exist in thinking about the past. If every experience that you have trigger you to think about the past, you have a problem. And you're always thinking about the experience of the past and what happened with this person and that person and this and so on and so forth. And that's all that you're experiencing. You are not in the present, and you're not grounding in the opportunity for growth, evolution that the now is presenting to you. You're stuck in the past. Or in my instance, it's not so much the past, it's the worry and the concern about what may or may not happen, so that I'm in reverie and I'm thinking about the future and what could or could not happen. And I spend a lot of time in that space, and I'm not appreciating what's happening around me at the moment. So as I am walking, and I be aware of this, because a lot of time, I grew up Catholic. So there were some things that used to happen. For example, on November, All Souls Day, my mom used to lead us into the cemetery, into my grandfather's tomb, and we used to clean it and all that. And there was a lot of talk about ancestors on the anniversary of their death, saying mass for them and doing all this other stuff and respecting the elder. And a lot of that may be part of a culture, but a lot of this is actually not only you holding the spirit of the person who was already in Bordeaux back and grounding them with you out of your own desire to have a connection to them, but more to the point, you're living in the past. You're not in the present. So the way I would describe what has been happening for me is that I feel like I am sleepwalking in my own life at the present. Like I am not even awake in 3D. Like there is a kind of fog when I go outside to do the shopping, or when I go for my, my meditation on the waterfront, or when I go for a lunch with friends, because that's what I do most of the time. I go for lunch. And when I go for lunch with them and I hang out, I feel like I'm in a kind of, I'm not fully embodied in myself in the present and the experience that's happening at the moment that it's happening right now. Like I am detached and disconnected or floating above it. I am not in it. There is a big disconnect because part of my body, as I'm going through the experience, although I'm engaging with my friend, I'm having conversation, or even with my clients, but there's a part of me that's still in the background trying to figure out. In other words, there is so much that's going on and we have lost so much control that for those of us who are control oriented, there's a part of ourselves that's busy trying to add linearly all of these things, trying to figure out what's the right move, what's the right path for me to go. Do I go left? Do I go right? What do I do? And when you're doing this subconsciously, there is no surrender. And thus you cannot inhabit or remain present, fully embodied and fully present. And that's a huge and immense problem. Because if you remain in the past, you're gonna, the past is there to inform you, but and we should be able to access the past and also connect to the future. But we should remain for the most time in the present. That information should be extrapolated and brought to the present so that we can behave and make decisions in the present. But most of us do not do this. What we do is that we project ourselves either in the past or in the future, or in reverie, or la la land and fantasy about this, that, or the other, or what could possibly happen if it was this way, if it was that way, and in that reverie, we are completely disconnected. The other thing as well, if you're a scanner, if you spend your time or most of your time scanning to find safe energy, that scanning is a disconnection to the now and the present, where you are at the moment. There are tons and tons of opportunities for growth, for evolution, for sensory engagement with your environment at the moment and at the present that you're right now. And the fact that you're escaping it and you're floating in space somewhere trying to, do something else, you are dissociated from the now. Now, dissociation is a phenomenon that occurs when you have had a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional and psychological trauma. And if enough of this psychological and emotional trauma occur, after a while, your personality, you end up having, these multiple fractures. And somehow, to reintegrate, you have to somehow heal these fractures. And the healing, it's not that the traumas are removed and they disappear. Healing is actually when you get into a space where the negative effect of the trauma no longer hold you back. They don't trigger you in the way they do. You don't dissociate anymore. You remain in the present. The memory of them and the experience is there as a lesson, as something that you learn, but you're no longer held back by these past traumatic experiences. So as I'm going through this and I'm moving through my own personal experience, I acknowledge that I spend a lot of times in this kind of like wishful thinking reverie. If Gaiaville was created, I would have taken the whole community up there, and we would have the perfect ascended village. And I need to, figure out a way to manifest this, which is a good thing. But if I remain in that space all the time, and I'm walking, and that's all I'm thinking about it, I'm not engaged into the beauty that the universe is bringing to me at the moment that I'm walking. I'm not engaged with the people that are crossing my path. I may be looking at them, but I'm not present with them. I may be hearing them, I may be smelling, I may be shaking somebody's hand, but I am still not present as long as I'm in that reverie. So it's a question of trying to engage myself or find a way to bring myself back into my body, to be fully embodied and to be fully present. Because to be in the now is the ideal state. And what do I mean by being in the now is to be so engaged with self that you are in your sovereignty. You stand with all of your sensory perception open, and you look around you as if you were looking at everything for the first time. I remember when I was a child, how I would have every day these incredible fun projects, particularly when I was on vacation, that I was going to do. Like there were things I would do when I returned back from school, but during vacation time, it was the best for me, because every day I'm going to build a fort. I'm gonna play with my toy soldiers. I'm gonna go to the neighbor's house and climb a tree. We're gonna do me and the kids on the road are gonna play soccer. We're gonna do this, all of these things. And every day there was a sense of incredible exuberance and connection to life, and understanding how important this very moment that I'm living in is. What an incredible gift it is to have all my senses engaged in the now. And what an unbelievable, beautiful gift that it is that I have that experience. And that, my friend, is the way that a true spiritual master exists. That should be the space that you exist in. That yes, you can go off in spirit, you can get information, you can blah, 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 but you return back into your body and you're fully integrated into the now, into the present. And when you look at things, when you smell things, when you hear things, there was a way as a child that I would listen to sound, or I would see objects, and I would begin to go, like I would spend hours, for example, examining ants and the way they move in a row, as they bring their food back to the ant hill. What do they do? I would spend hours, and this used to fascinate me, to look at what they're doing and look at all the lizards or or the butterfly. There was a sense of like exploration, of trying to find out and discover the beauty. Right now, there is a blasé attitude that I have about all of this. There is a part of me that feels numb and disconnected to that kind of spirit. I feel that it's so far, far away from me, I don't remember it. It feels like it was a different person that did all this. And I am just simply going through a routine, a very boring routine on a day-to-day basis. And that exuberance and that youth, that sense of like, everything in life is so beautiful. I'm gonna go and do this today, and I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna explore this, and I can't wait to share this with my friends. I can't wait, or if I was coming home, I'm gonna tell my mom this, I'm gonna tell my brother this. I'm gonna, that kind of like now engagement in the life that I'm having at this moment, rather than in the dissociation from everything. We're dissociating because what we're experiencing is so traumatic. It's a defense mechanism to help us cope. But doing this 2 years now, going into 3 years in a row, you're going to have more fracture and more split personalities, more false accesses. It's unhealthy to your spiritual growth and evolution to exist in and embody that kind of behavior and model that kind of behavior. We need to move beyond that and begin to experience something very different. We need to engage in a way that will allow us to, to reconnect to the very present that we are having, experience we're having now, and to give us the an appreciation for when we are talking to people and we are conversing, and as we are engaging with them, that we're fully in our body. We are not half engaged, and on the back of our mind, we're still worried about, whatever is the chaos of the day that's going into our life right now. Whether it is because you're losing your job, or you have financial worries, or your health, or you're concerned generally about your own safety, thinking that the world is going to explode and all of us are going to die. So it's to find that balance, that thin line that exists between, yes, I can listen, and again, I'm not scanning meaning you're tactically trying to retrieve information so that you have the upper hand. If you're doing this, you need to disengage with that behavior. It's a violation of the first law, which is the law of non-interference. You cannot commingle your energy grid with anyone else without complete disclosure, consent, and permission. A listening ability is to be a witness and to observe, to truly observe without objection. The only way you can observe without having objection and be a witness, you have to be fully present. You have to be present in the now. Because if you're in reverie and you're thinking about other things, your subconscious mind is busy trying to do other things. As you're walking, you're not a witness. You're not fully engaged in the now. And the gifts and the opportunity for learning, for growth, for evolution, for ascension that the present is trying to give you, you will not see it, you will not perceive it, you will not know it. Any questions, any comments? So we talked about being a witness the last time, and that idea of us being a witness and has been the highest form of enlightenment. To be a witness, you have to be in the now. Thich Nhat Hanh, it talks about this as a Zen Buddhist master, and Rinpoche, he talks about this all the time. You have to be engaged in the now. And this idea of us worrying and concerned and worried about our own trauma, or reliving our trauma over and over and over and over again. Enough already. Let it go. If you keep engaging and worried about, traditional therapy spend a lot of time telling you to feel your emotion fully and re-experience the old trauma. But if all you're doing is experiencing the trauma over and over and over again, you will never move beyond it. You will not be healed. You have to reframe the experience and begin to realize it's not about you continuing to feel that you were victimized by your parents, but it's about you getting to a point where the victimization mentality is no longer who you are as an identity. Like you learn a lesson from it and you let it go. And you realize now, I may have been disempowered at the moment that this happened, but I am not the same person right now. And I'm fully embodied and I'm a sovereign being. And I have complete self-awareness and engagement in the now. And because I'm engaged in the now, I am not allowing whatever happened in that past that I had suppressed. Now that I've removed the lid and I know what it is, I can take that lesson as a learning tool to say to myself, if ever someone treats me this way, it doesn't matter if it's a parent or a spouse or whomever, I will never accept this from anyone anymore. That was the reason for the experience. Therefore, I can move forward. I can engage in the now. I can be move as a sovereign being. Now, part of this also is why is this important? Is the fact that in order for us to manifest the kingdom of heaven or help bring the kingdom of heaven on earth, unless you're present, your powers cannot be manifested. If you're scattered because part of your energy is worried about some trauma that happened when you were 5 or 6 or 12 years old, or some of it is worried about an abuse that happened when you're 23, or you're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, and you're trying to figure out which part of the world should I move into, and should I engage there, should I do this, and all of your energy is to split. You cannot, in any way, shape, or form, truly embody and know where to actually take yourself in your full power and sovereignty when you're so scattered all over the place. If you're scanning all the time because you're trying to find safe space and safe energies, and you're busy trying to sense this person or that person and safety, and I'm saying this to you because that behavior is not unusual. It's more common than not. And particularly with what we're living in. There's a whole chapter, I think it's chapter 9 in my book, which is how to remove addiction and bad habits. And if you're addicted to scanning, which is an energy addiction, an incorrect energy addiction, there's a whole list of almost 20 things that you can do to help you disconnect to this. It's going to take some time, but it will help you and give you the tool to actually do on a daily basis to catch yourself and stop yourself from doing this. So you're talking to somebody, you're engaging with them, but you're not there. You're floating somewhere else, trying to scan something or trying to find a place that's pleasant because you're worried about the unpleasantness that exists in the world. I remember during World War, I don't remember, I was not alive at the time, but history tells us that during the World War, the way Hollywood, the major studios like MGM, became very big and signed Greta Garbo and all of these great actors, Fred Astaire, all of these, and they created these elaborate movies about this easy life and everything is flowing, this kind of beautiful setting and all of these. This is the golden age of Hollywood, okay? And those movies were created as a way to create an escape. And on Sunday, everyone would go to the movie theater as a way to, for 2 hours, give you a disconnection to the horror of a world war. It's a coping mechanism, and you can use it as a coping mechanism for a while. But if you keep doing it day in and day out, it will dissociate you. It will fracture you. Now, in the engagement with the present, no matter how disconcerting it may be to, because what's being dismantled right now is our entire existing paradigm. The 3D paradigm is being dismantled. There is a deconstruction that's happening. And as it being shaken down, our connection to everything, banking system, food security, et cetera, is right. It's like somebody shaking a tree, or there's an earthquake causing everything to rattle. So because of this, we may feel that the reverie is the only way for us to feel, to have a sense of control. But if you exist in the now, even with all of the chaos that's all happening, if you fully are embodied in the present, you will realize that the death that you're experiencing with friends and family because of COVID, or the loss that you think you're experiencing because of your job or because of your finances, are an opportunity for you to find something much bigger, much better, and aside from another opportunity will present itself, because when the door closes, something else opens. But more to the point, it will also give you an opportunity to acquire and understand a wisdom, something about yourself that was connected to control. And this is huge, because control exists in a contrast. What do I mean by contrast? On the one hand, we think control is about us holding the rein and holding onto everything and directing everything. But true cosmic control is about you actually surrendering your own ego control as an ego death to your higher power and to your God, and letting go completely of the rein. And as you do this, suddenly you're in a different territory. Because now what will channel through you is celestial power. And true control that will show up, will render for you in the most miraculous and impossible ways. And all you need to do is to follow as you're being guided through it. You will have a shepherd in front of you, and all you need to do is to follow the shepherd. You don't have to worry about how it's done, or who's going to do it, and when, and where should I stand. You have to follow the shepherd. Any questions, any comments? Do any of you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the reverie and being dissociated? Because I know I'm not the only one. Given all the experiences that we had since March of last year, when we shut down and everybody went in, you know, because of COVID and all that, there is a dissociation from life, a disengagement. I feel sometimes that I'm sleepwalking, like I'm in a fog. And I've been several weeks walking around this way. I'm engaging and I'm going outside. I'm like, I feel like I am dreaming, but I'm not lucid in the dream. It's like I'm behind myself and I'm watching myself acting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can relate to what you're saying. And the best way.
Speak a little louder because it's crackling, Ursula.
Hold on. Is it better now?
Yeah, go ahead.
I can relate to what you are saying, and the best way I can describe it is at work, there are some things that I do like with my hands and physically, and I feel a big difference when I'm there and I'm kind of present, but I'm in you know this thinking about past, present, future, and all the traumas and all those things. But at times when I have to do some, particularly if I have to do something physically with my hands, like as if you were painting, you know, or gardening or something like that. When I do that, it's like day, night and day, you know, where I'm no longer like aware of all these other things, and I'm really focused on what I'm doing. It's because it's a function of just what I'm doing, you know, like as if you were gardening or something or painting, and you really focused on that piece of paper. So I think I know what you're saying, because I can tell the difference, and I'm noticing that in me. Because the moment let's say I finish the task, let's say I was painting, let's say I'm done painting, and I go off and I just go about my day, and then immediately I feel the difference in my head. I'm here, I feel that my mind suddenly is again here and there and all over the place, and I can clearly feel it. I can feel the difference.
Yes, Ursula, thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, I would say I have a different experience, so maybe I'm deluding myself, but instead of trekking twice a day up to the Bronx to work and back, I stay at home and am able to work. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've enjoyed that isolation. In a sense, I'm not a gregarious person by nature, and I feel comfortable. I don't necessarily miss anything. So, as I say, maybe I'm deluding myself, but that's a different experience than yours.
Let me ask you this, Janice.
Yes.
Is this, and I understand the commute was hell for you because it was very long and it took a long time for you to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But is this an escape, a disconnection or a disengagement from engagement with other people?
That's an interesting thought, Pierre. I think I'd have to think on that, meditate on that.
No one is an island. I'm an introvert by nature, and I like my isolation and my privacy. But and I'm a Capricorn, so I'm that person. But I am also very aware that that kind of isolation creates a disconnection to life for me. That doing this day in and day out, after a while, I begin to feel not lonely, but alone. There's a difference.
Of course, I have a different situation in that Monty and I are together in
Yep.
this isolation. So,
and I understand that, but sometimes you can be with somebody and still be alone. Just because you have somebody there, it doesn't mean that you're not alone. Because you can be in a relationship and still be alone. Okay? So it's a question of asking yourself some very deep question about is that a disengagement from life itself? Is it not, you know, is there a part of you that does not to desire? Because one of the things I used to do back home, even though I'm a loner, etc., there was a habit, particularly in the Caribbean and Creole culture, where we would sit on the veranda or the front porch and we would people watch. We would see the neighbor walking around, going to Sunday school, wearing their hats, Sunday mass. We would see the neighbor go doing this, driving the car, and we would make little commentary, waving at them and that kind of thing. And that kind of like, and it's very French. And that kind of engagement is something, maybe it's part of my culture. It's something that when I go to the park and the waterfront and I sit there for 2 hours after my meditation, I sit for a while just to watch people. And it fulfills a place in me that makes me feel that I belong to the human race. Because otherwise I might as well go into a cave and seal the front of the cave. Because there's a part of me that's capable of doing this.
Pierre, I agree with you, because when I was switching my jobs, I had a choice where I could work alone, or totally be alone in a place. And I felt that would not be good or healthy for me at this time. And I knew I could do it. It's not that I would be lonely, but I felt like I needed the interaction. So I totally, and I have done both ways, so I can completely relate to what you are saying, because I have done jobs where I was totally by myself in that sense all day long, and it was okay back then, but I wouldn't want to do it today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a different energy. I feel like I need to be with people.
From my experience, of course, I'm tired after a long work day, and for me to go out is a stress. I'm in the Zoom meetings all day long, well, not all day long, but frequently through the days. So I'm interacting with people in a virtual capacity, mind you, not in person. But so I have the sense of connecting, but I will look at the suggestions to explore of escapism or disengagement, maybe depression. I don't know.
Yeah. Well said, Janice, because there's something you're afraid of.
Did you say something, Alfredo?
Something that you might be afraid of.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Getting into some fettuccine or something.
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Pierre.
Yeah. It is something for you to explore, and I know, Janice, because I'm like you. I love my privacy. I love my alone time. I love the way I'm working and what I'm doing. Okay, and I love to be engaged in it. But having said this, if I didn't know what was going to happen in the future, I would have tried to create RESOC this year in person. But I know there's something else that's coming. Mm-hmm. And it will not be safe for you and me and for all of us who would be at the RESOC. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you all know this. I'm a hugger. And I love to hug. I love to have that kind, because sometimes you need not just the embrace of just one person, but you need to sense your community around you, not virtually, but be around you, see their smile in their faces and have a face-to-face conversation. See the flinch in their eyes, see them crying, support them. That kind of engagement gives you something else. And this is what I mean about presence. It opens pockets of opportunities that that are immense, not only in terms of the capacity to have compassion and to support, but they also gift you tremendous amount of support. They nourish you. Somebody giving you a loving hug can last you, can give you energy and last you for days. Somebody projecting their love into you can immensely and become so transformative and healing for you. And the fact that I can't do this for this research is something that you know, that's kind of like difficult for me, because I wanted to have a in-person research, but I'm not going to engage in it because somebody I know who recently, a light worker, was meeting in classes, even though COVID supposedly no mask mandate here in New York, in the States, she got infected with COVID for the second time, she and her husband, because of all these in-person meetings. So now I know that the decision I made, although at the time it's because a couple of my students were asking me. One of my students wanted to travel from Europe to come to New York and asked me, "Is it going to be in New York or in the Catskills?" And I'm like, "No, it's going to be online because something is coming, something far worse."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather, you know, not expose all of you to danger, right? And it's hurting because the one thing I love about the WISAC, okay, the best way I can describe this to you, Janice, you've been to WISAC multiple times and you've experienced it. That kind of engagement and community that you get there, is there any part of you that missed this? You don't have to answer me now. It's a rhetorical question.
Oh, yes. I can answer it if you'd like.
Sure.
Yes.
Of course. Of course. There was a beauty, when we're all sitting at the table, or we're on the porch, when we're all you know, in the break, or we're all engaged in collective meditation together. There's something about that kind of connection. And I'm saying this is a high spiritual festival, but the same when you walk and you're on the train or you're on the subway, when you engage in the street. Right now, I'm finding people are finding me on the street because even in my fog, they still can see my natural light and my luminosity, even though I know I'm not completely present and engaged. And they are running to me, asking me all kinds of questions. I end up having conversation with random strangers all the time, tourists, people. Like I was the other day, I had like a 15-minute conversation with somebody. I think he was from Norway, and it was on the waterfront by 23rd Street, and then there was an extension, a pier that goes all the way out, and it was overcast but warm. And I sat there for a good hour and a half, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to go to the very end of the pier. And as I was walking, he was coming the other direction, and he walked right up to me, young man, and started talking to me with his accent and about the Hudson River and history, blah, blah, blah. And I had this incredible conversation with a perfect stranger. And then after that, I said, you know, have a beautiful day, enjoy. He's like, this is a foggy day, it should have been sunny. I said, no, but there is a kind of beauty, don't you think, in this kind of fogginess? It feels like something is about to pierce through the veil and become visible. There's a kind of pregnant beauty in this. I feel somebody at any point is about to break through the fog out of Jersey and appear and manifest. I said, and no one was there. And that conversation nourished me. I came back home happy. That's what I mean about engaging in the now.
Yeah, I get nourished like this. On my way to work, there is a D'Agostino's, And when I go the shopping, there is a lady there. I don't know, for some reason, she spotted me, and I was, nice to her. And now every time she sees me, she's nice to me. She works there.
Mhm.
Every time she sees me, she's nice to me.
Yeah.
And he said, have a good day and this and that and hello. And she would come up. I'm looking at trying to buy a sandwich for lunch, and she would say, "Oh, this type, we don't get it until Tuesday." I'm like, "How do you even know this?" I don't even know how she knows this, but I'm so always grateful, for that kind of kindness, for sure.
Yep. Yep.
That it's priceless. Like you couldn't get it. Like especially like you said, when it's in person, it's really nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the universe is going to bring me. And that day I happened to be blessed because I did a long meditation. I was alone. And then suddenly no one was walking, or a few runners here and there would come across in front of the bench, but it was overcast. And, and so I happened to be present after the meditation. So when I got up, this young man just appeared out of nowhere. And we engaged in conversation. And just casual. I don't know his name. He doesn't know my name. We were just talking.
Yeah. But I agree with you that I think part of it is that people see the natural light.
Yes.
Like I acknowledge that that's probably what she is seeing.
Yes.
But I'm at the same time, I'm always grateful,
Yeah.
Especially now when we don't get a lot of interactions to begin with.
Yes. Yes. And again, today there was a in my building, they rent out a lot one of the few of the apartment to models, young girls that are extremely tall and extremely beautiful. And one of them was coming in the building today, and they are very transient. They're here for a few months, and then after that they disappear, right? And one of them was coming in, and I opened the door and I held the door for her, I let her in, and she engaged with me in a conversation in the elevator. And when she got up, she turned around and she looked at me, and the engagement and the look in her eyes, she said, "Have a blessed day." I said, "Have a blessed day." She said, "Thank you, and you as well." And the way she looked at me, you could tell, very thin, very tall, and you could tell that there was something about, and I noticed this, that the way she was saying, engaging with me, she was deeply and profoundly grateful.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was watching a video yesterday. It was about fashion show, and it was showing these girls. They can be very sensitive. Like they were like Victoria's Secret models. They were wearing these fancy outfits, but these girls, they were cheering each other. They were making a cross sign. They were scared before going out. They need the love and support more than sometimes we realize.
Yeah.
And they're often alone, away from their families.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I was simply kind, I was being myself, and this engagement allowed me, and I was present, because I'm going to teach you an exercise, and this is in preview for a class that I will be teaching. It's a 12 weeks class I'll be teaching, starting in April the 18th, called it's the Bardo of Dreams Gateway into Conscious Immortality. So one of the practice that will not only help and benefit you and me to keep me engaged in the present right now, and stop me from the reverie and the floating around and the escaping from my own body, is to keep asking myself multiple times throughout the day, over and over again, even if I'm indoor or outdoor, as I look away from the computer, get up to get myself a cup of tea, come back to write something, etc. As I'm doing what I'm doing, I ask myself this question over and over again. Am I dreaming or am I awake? By asking this question over and over again, like I'm saying the Ho'oponopono, am I dreaming or am I awake? Repeating it again, am I dreaming and am I awake? What happened is that because I'm querying myself, I am engaging my consciousness into an examination of my present environment. Okay? Not floating in space, not engaging in reverie and la la land and whatever. I'm engaging in the now, and I'm asked, am I dreaming or am I awake? And I'm beginning to look around me in a completely different way. And as I look, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 2 weeks now. My sight, without my glasses, improved dramatically. The way I hear completely differently when I'm doing this. What I smell becomes completely engaging, a completely different sense of my sensory perception sharpened, because at that moment, I am having discernment, and I'm not trying to activate my self-awareness of my present and current condition. Am I dreaming or am I awake? And as I do this, and the reason it relates to the class is that if you do this enough during your daily life, what's going to happen is that as you're engaging in this, because you're engaging your consciousness in self-awareness assessment at the moment that you're asking this question, that kind of self-awareness assessment will bring to you the luminosity and natural light. In the Baldo Todol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the reason why when somebody dies and they go through the Baldo of Dharmata, the experiences of the Baldo of death, when they engage in this, the reason they are lost, it's because they are disengaged and they are not connected to the assessment of the current situation. They've lost the ability to be lucid in their own experience. They are disengaged. By asking this simple question, I am bringing myself back to the now and the present. Am I dreaming or am I awake? I keep repeating it over and again as I'm walking several blocks. Am I dreaming or am I awake? I look at the sky, I look at everything. Am I dreaming or am I awake? And as I do this, if my sight becomes sharp, my hearing becomes something else, I begin to experience and engage in a completely different way with all of the wind that's blowing on my face. Everything becomes different. So I recommend that practice for all of you as a way to begin to help accelerate this practice of natural light, to increase your connection to natural light, to become more self-assessing and self-aware so that you can begin to be in the now and the present. If I'm not querying and asking this question, I'm not going to normally engage in that kind of awareness. But what happens if you keep asking this while you're awake over and over again, when you go into the dream world, that same conversation will go in your head where you're going to be in a dream and you're going to say, am I dreaming or am I awake? And then at that moment, you will realize, oh, I'm dreaming, and you will awaken the dream and still be lucid and be in the now, in the Bardo of dream. If you keep doing this, both in the bottle of dream and the bottle of life, what's going to happen is that when you transition and you're between this death and the next rebirth, you're going to also traverse the Bordeaux in that kind of awareness as well, which is engaged and connected to the luminosity of assessing your present situation. Any questions, any comments about this?
So Pierre, to help to do this in our dreams, well, you're going to talk about probably in the class.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, ask your question, go ahead.
Like once we do, before going to bed, we do the mouth of God exercise.
Yes.
Would it also be helpful to ask the question or save it for later?
No. The mouth of God is a different exercise. You don't ask that question in that moment. You should do it during the day multiple times.
Yeah, but we don't need to do it at night.
No.
Okay.
At night you just go to sleep, and it's gonna. And what happened is that kind of engagement, as I can explain it, it's like all of a sudden everything becomes sharper, your senses, and you begin to sense that you're in your body. And I remember having an experience when I was very young. I was standing in front of a mirror in my mother's room, and I don't know, I must have been 8 or 9 or 10. And I begin to look at my skin and look at my body. And I begin to be engaged and look at all of the little indentation in my entire hand, my skin. And I look at my nail, I look at my body. And I went so deep in thinking about all of the bones and the muscles that allow me to open and close my hand. I begin to be so engaged in this kind of like deep and profound contemplation of my connection. And this took me into my connection to God. And how grateful I am to be in this body, in this vessel, and how fragile it can be, because I had a couple of bruises from playing out, and I was constantly engaged in something. I had bruises all over the place because I was jumping on top of everything and all that. And I remember looking at the bandages and thinking to myself, and how fragile it can be, but at the same time, how wonderful it is to be alive, to be here, to be present, to be right here, right now. And how grateful I am to have that experience, to have to be standing in front of this mirror and to see my reflection, and to look at my hands, and to look at all the thing that made me tick, that made me able to jump from one roof to another and do all the crazy stuff that I'm doing right now. I was being completely, fully present at that moment.
I was just thinking how great to be in the body and do all the crazy things we do right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's not something that we would it's not something we were dreaming. I was dreaming about doing, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But I hear you, yes. But okay, I just want to make sure.
And honestly, at 9-10 years old, I was not thinking of myself as being spiritual. Although I was deeply spiritual, but this is not it was just me. It's the exuberance of youth that I was talking about. This engagement into the now and the present, and how incredible it was, to be. And I was never a popular kid in terms of being the, having all the other cool kid around me. I was always, because my interest was so bizarre. Okay. And I would play by myself. I would do a lot of things like that. But when I did engage with my friends, I would engage them into, again, exploration that were very kind of crazy. I remember one time spending days creating a volcano in the backyard. Okay. I went to the hardware store. I got cement. I created a volcano.
Did it work?
It had a whole world inside of it. I created a secret base, layers. I did all kinds of things. And so that kind of exploration gives you, again, when you're a child, if you can think of yourself when you were younger, and maybe now we're too old and we're too set in our ways, and we are disconnected to that youthfulness. But there is a kind of incessant exploration into what's outside of ourselves, and a sense that the world is benevolent and that we're immortal and we can engage in it. And I remember thinking to myself, the kind of things that I want to explore and do, I need to live over 1,000 years to do all of them.
I hear you, and I'm lucky because I work around kids and children, and that's definitely helpful, to be around them and having that kind of perspective. So I'm blessed in that way.
Yep.
I'm definitely glad that I chose that, doing these things, because it's paying off right now.
Yes.
With being with people, being with people when it's just right, but not too much, not crowds, big crowds. And kids, all kinds of ages, it's helpful too.
Yeah, because the kids will entrain you in their exuberance.
Yeah, and just it's like it's kind of grounding too.
Yep. They fall down, they start crying about this one, and the next minute they're up again and they're running around, they're bouncing off. I remember doing all of this.
And they kids very much live in the present.
Yes.
They might have fallen and hurt themselves in the morning. It's already forgotten by the evening.
That's right.
And what I relate to is particularly the part I've been thinking about, like, enough with this past and processing and traumas, like enough already. I've been feeling that, like, something shows up, that's fine, but enough just worry about that all the time. It's like processed and done beyond, it's like to death and beyond.
Yes.
And I feel like I've been feeling that too, even all last week. I was like, enough already. It's like to death and beyond, it's done, it's over. And it's like lessons learned. And not to say if I see something I see a mirror, I will make corrections. But other than that, I agree to be more in the present and not worry so much about what we, all these negative things that we were processing, because we've done so much work every day.
And to your point, Ursula, a lot of the stuff right now, particularly the big stuff that are happening in the world, you and I cannot control them.
Yeah.
So why am my consciousness engaged in trying to find a solution set for all of these things?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was definitely related to that, and that showed up for me. There was this woman that she was talking about calibrate. She calls it calibrating. That if that it's okay to process and feel and this and that, but there comes a point where you just have to stop. Mm-hmm. Because it's not healing anymore, and be in the present and she talks about the same thing a little differently, but to stop and your PTSD, your childhood trauma, whatever it might be, so it doesn't run your life, and just be in the present and do what you can do with your gifts now.
Yep.
What are your gifts and how can you maybe use those gifts?
Mhm.
Help yourself, help your neighbors, do something good.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hear you. I hear you. Any other questions? Any other comments? All right. If there are no questions or no comments, let us stop here, 5 minutes for bathroom or water breaks, and then we'll do the closing meditation following. 5 minutes.
Okay, Pierre, I'm not
Yeah.
able to stay.
Yeah. I
I'm-
know.
Yeah, okay. Good
Yeah.
night, everyone.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. Become aware of all of the sensations, knowing, perceptions, and expansion that this is creating for you. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And notice what you noticed. Become aware of any subtle changes, energetic expansion, rearrangements of the flow of energies that may be happening in your body or outside of you. Realize that you can perceive energies at 360 degrees. Become aware of any perceptions, insights, knowing. That the blessed field, the quantum field, in infinity times infinity, wants to bring to your attention. I release all attachments. fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness. And endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness. And endless luminosity. I am fully engaged in the now and the present. I am embodied in this bardo of samadhi and meditation. Identifying and recognizing the luminosity and natural light Now, when the bardo of samadhi meditation dawns upon me, I will abandon the crowd of distractions and confusions. And rest in the boundless state without grasping or disturbance. Firm in the practices, visualization, and complete at this time of meditation. One-pointed, free activity. I will not fall into the power of confused emotion. I recognized and identified with the luminosity. Which is the pure essence of my being. The indivisible emptiness and luminosity that exists everywhere. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre. That was very helpful. And the perspectives that you shared were, I think, going to be really helpful too. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Janice. You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other comments before we close? I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight, and thank you for listening. If you're listening in Patreon, I want to thank you for your support. If you're hearing us on YouTube, please like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate your support. It will help improve the algorithm. Thank you, everyone. You all have a good night. And
Thank you.
I love you deeply. Bye-bye.
Good night. Good night.